Hi there, it's Forest Nui Cobalt, and I wanted to say a quick word about Mercury Retrograde, a phrase that strikes fear into the hearts of all people, whether you actually know anything about astrology or not. So, at the time of this filming, we have just finished a retrograde of Mercury, and we are now in what's called the shadow period. So, rolling back a step, 3 times a year for approximately 3 weeks at a time, Mercury appears to be moving backwards in our sky. It's not actually moving backwards, planets don't do that, but in the same way that one car might appear to move backwards in relation to another car moving on the freeway, Mercury appears to be moving backwards from the perspective of Earth, or from what's called a geocentric perspective. The effect, astrologically, seems to have 4 basic components. The effects seem to be on commuting, computing, commerce, and communication. Mercury and or Hermes, whichever name from the classical Hellenic pantheon you're looking at, is the symbol of our ability to receive data and to send it back out again. So it's data collection and transmission. We do that in modern times a lot more than we do other things. We are in our cars and bikes and buses a lot of the time. We are engaging in exchanges of money and resources a lot of the time, and so on, which makes it seem like Mercury retrograde is a much more impactful time and turns us on our ear a little more than perhaps other retrogrades do. Perhaps retrogrades of Venus or of Jupiter don't have as much of an obvious effect because we as a culture, contemporary Western culture, don't engage in jovial or Venusian behaviors as frequently as we do mercurial behaviors. Now, the shadow period. Okay, so a little harder to nail down, but basically what it means is, yes, the retrograde is over. There's also a shadow period before it starts, so before and after shadow period. Things still aren't quite back to total functionality. The degrees of sky that Mercury traveled during the retrograde are still being traveled now in the shadow period after the direct station. So, computers and cars and bicycles and means of transportation, communication devices, all of the stuff that was fritzing out during the Mercury retrograde is probably still not entirely back to quote-unquote normal. But at about the time after the shadow, we get our stuff back to functionality. Now, one caveat of many. If you were born during a Mercury retrograde and in your chart, you will see Mercury with a little R, almost like this prescription symbol, the R with the X on the tail. That means that retrogrades may not have as noticeable an impact on you and your life because it's sort of programmed into your original system. Your original natal chart has that Mercury retrograde in it already. I happen to be one of those folks. I have a Mercury retrograde. So that is what a Mercury retrograde is, and I'm sure we are all glad to be done with this most recent one, and I will see you next time. Not communicating very well, see? Mercury retrograde. Okay, bye.